Hey, Bashi.
Hey, Sufi.
How are you?
I'm great.
We're speaking the day after Father's Day.
Yeah. Happy belated Father's Day.
Thank you very much.
I did reach out to you on Father's Day proper.
You did.
I should point
And
out.
can I say, I like when a non-father wishes me Happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
Because when I get a text from another father, I have to write back, same to you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
You don't even have to reply to me.
Yeah, exactly. Or I can say thanks, but I don't, like for me, ultimately, as a father on my special day, I just want to receive praise. I don't want to give it.
Right. Yeah.
I'll give it to my father, which I did.
Yeah.
But yeah. So how's that as a pet peeve? Is that an irritating one?
No, that's okay.
Okay,
That's right in the pocket.
I also had a lot of travel this weekend. And so I just filmed an hour-long special. And we'll plug it when it's available to watch. But I'm very excited.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. I went to Chicago. I filmed it at the Vic Theater, which is one of my favorite comedy theaters in the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got some roots in Chicago, so a lot of our old friends were at the show.
Yeah. I mean, we used to go to the Vic a lot. Like the Vic used to have Brew and View.
View, which was, like sort of a precursor of the Alamo Drafthouse experience.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of our friends, and, obviously listeners know we share a lot of friends. And so afterwards, there was a party at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
And, I finished my special. I'm, kind of ready to receive my accolades. And all the buzz. You know what all the buzz was at the after party?
What's that?
Poshy's wedding.
Oh, yeah.
Thunder stolen. Nobody wants to talk about Mr. Comedy. Everybody's so excited for Poshy's wedding.
Yeah. I mean, well, I will point out that twice in a very short, we've been talking for under 3 minutes, you've talked about how you like getting accolades. You say
So did I come out a little
for
hot?
Father's Day, and you also want it for your show. So maybe it's comeuppance that.
Yeah, no, you're right. This is a very, as far as a Greek tragedy goes, this is a very short one. So this is a one actor.
Yeah. Also, it was late when your show ended. I know that for a fact because I hear you really over-ordered on the tuna tacos.
Yeah. Our dearest friend, Jill Benjamin, who is my comedy partner, my first comedy partner. Jill is the party planner extraordinaire.
Yeah.
I mean, she will throw a party together. And she will also send multiple emails about the details of this party.
Uh-huh.
Now, you, I think, know this about myself. My headspace pre the taping was only jokes, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to make a lot of decisions about the party. I should say she picked a wonderful place. It was on the corner from the theater. We could all just walk right over there. Everything about the space was great. The staff was great. But I kind of ignored her ordering. And there were 2 towers of ahi tuna tacos. a 3-tiered tuna ahi tuna taco tower. And again, it was 11:30 on a Saturday night, the hour where no one is I could crush some. Again, in a city, Chicago, that has maybe some of the best late night, we're talking pizzas, we're talking burritos, we're talking hot dogs, we're talking Italian, any of that. And then the thing you're if you're in Chicago and it's almost midnight, you gotta have
a tower of tuna tacos.
Yeah. But everybody was sort of standing around the towers talking about how excited they were for your wedding.
Yeah. Here's a little question for you. Our mother's a French teacher, so I think you're going to get this. Do you know what RSVP stands for?
I know the SVP is s'il vous plaît, and so I think the R must be responde?
Responde, that's correct. So you send out an invitation, and then you ask for the courtesy of a response.
Yeah.
We sent out our save the dates, digitally over an email. Still waiting to hear from you if you're going to make it.
I didn't get it.
You didn't get it?
I 100% didn't get it.
Oh, okay.
I did not. No way, man.
Okay.
I would have responded.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll get it out. I'll get it out later.
Not to turn the tables, because obviously this has been a miscommunication. I have been sort of sitting here being how dare he assume
I don't know.
I'm just a yes.
Okay. I'll get it to you. An
Yeah, you know what
alternative way.
you know what ASVP stands for?
What?
Ask, s'il vous plaît.
All right.
What is ask? Demande?
I think.
I'm going to send you a DSVP.
Yeah, I don't think it's demande.
Hey,
It sounds like it should be right. But
I took it out in the end. I took it out of my act because from way it wasn't really playing, and I don't think I had a bit in my hour about how I hate how my kids eat chocolate croissants. And you know, because they'll just eat the little chocolate stick out of it and they won't eat any of the croissants. And multiple friends of ours who listened to it said, first of all, it sucks how you pronounce croissant. Because I guess they say croissant?
Croissant?
Yeah, croissant. But would you ever say croissant?
No, I'd probably say croissant.
Yeah, and I mean,
and then
like,
if I were in France, I would say croissant.
Croissant. But I guess, and I hope that everybody who's listening now is judging us one way or the other. But I feel as when you have a mom who's a French teacher, you can't be walking around saying croissant.
Right.
And then I said to one of our friends, do you think if I changed it to croissant, it would work better? And they said, no, because in the end, it's also just douchey that you give your kids chocolate croissants. So it was like it was doubly a problem. So we just took it right out.
Yeah. Well, here's another bit of comeuppance that I feel like for anyone that's listening and thinks we're jerks. Here's a story you'll like. I played golf on Friday with 3 of my buddies who all went to Michigan. We went to Northwestern, so it's a nice little Big Ten group. We play maybe every 4 months or so. And I'm in a cart, passenger seat. My buddy Dave is driving. He drives past our friend Andrew's ball, about like 100 yards past it to look for his ball, which is like you should probably stop when you get to the first guy's ball.
Yeah.
But he drives past it. Then he sees that we've passed my ball as well and makes a hard turn left, sort of into the fairway. And the guy who was 100 yards back is now hitting. So I look up. I got Dave sort of to my left, so he's in between me and this ball. And this ball, the only word to describe this ball is screaming at us. Dave turns away from it. It glances off of his back, and it hits me clean in the side. Ooh. And I've never been hit by a golf ball. And for a guy to hit 2 of his friends with a golf ball is amazing. And yeah, it was shocking. And I'll show you now. If you're listening, You're not going to see this, but.
Oh, I mean, if you've ever been wondering whether or not to go watch us on YouTube, this might be the time to check it out.
It hit me right in the love handle section of my side, which is the best possible place to get hit.
Best possible place, but it did leave. I would say it left the mark of 10 golf balls.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I don't want to name it because we're not, obviously this is not sponsored, but if anybody who works for the underpants company Josh is wearing wants to throw a little scratch our way.
Did I show some underpants there?
Yeah, you could read the label.
Oh. Yeah. Those are just jockeys.
Don't say it.
Just jockeys.
But did you scream?
No, we were dead silent.
Oh, wow.
Dave slumped over the steering wheel. I just rolled out of the cart and laid on my back. We were both holding our backs and we were silent. Like I was just taking stock of, I didn't know how badly I was hurt. It stung like crazy. And then we had a second Andrew with us who drove down and he's like, what happened? We were like, Andrew just hit both of us. And then second Andrew could not stop laughing.
Well, of course. Yeah.
Because we were okay, it was incredible. And the guy that hit us bought lunch, felt terrible. He felt worse than either of us who got hit by the ball.
Right. That is, I mean, I guess when they're writing a golf etiquette book, it seems like this would be. If they were showing it the way they show videos in sort of driver's ed classes, this would be a video they would show.
Yeah.
As far as like how not to turn.
Yeah. It's very much like when a plane crashes, it's like 11 things have gone wrong. Like there were a lot of things that went wrong there.
Yeah.
And we paid the price, but we're okay. Just a little bruised up.
That's great.
Yeah.
When we're in the body of doing our show and talking to our guests, it's completely stress-free. But I will say in the lead up to an episode sometimes, just like any, my show, you're like, oh, wow, we're going to talk to this person. I hope it goes well, that sort of thing. But today, these are the easiest ones. I have no stress about our listener episodes.
Yeah, I like these.
So we just want to thank you because it is so lovely to know that we are going to listen to stories for the first time that our producer Sam has compiled. And it's so nice to be able to do the show with you, people we have never met.
Family trips with the Myers brothers. Family trips with the Myers brothers. Here we go.
Speaking of Sam, she's going to join us right now.
Hi. I have some exciting news that I don't know if you guys remember or not, but guess what's in 10 days?
Is it our anniversary?
It's our 1-year anniversary.
Wow, that is, you know what? That's such fantastic news because that makes sense. This was a podcast born of the writer's strike, and it's so nice to be in such a better place now than I was emotionally then, and yet to have the wonderful, silver lining of the strike was that we got to start this.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
And we're now also officially at 8.3 million downloads, which is crazy because I feel like we were just celebrating 1 million. So
that's amazing.
We've come a long way.
And if you take out Larry and Hillary, it's like low sevens.
Yes, they do. In fact, they've made up most of our listener questions today.
Oh,
and
no.
No, I'm just kidding.
Have we talked about the rebuttal episode? We do have to do the rebuttal episode soon. Oh, yeah. This was a request of our father. Have we talked about it? But that he wants to officially rebut everything that we've said about him. So
I think in honor of our dad, we told you something we've already told you.
We would love to have Larry on. We
all love to have Larry.
Everybody loves Larry.
We're gonna have Larry on. So
it's actually going to be the just Myers guys podcast from starting now. Larry's going to come on every episode.
It's not the Myers brothers. It's the Myers guys. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a Everybody Loves Larry story, but Brooks Whelan, he's a very funny comedian who opens for me on the road, and he opened for me my last special, which was 5 years ago. And we had breakfast. My dad came to see the show in Pittsburgh, so did Mom. And we had breakfast the morning after. And in the most dad way possible, Josh, you will appreciate, he was telling me the bits that he thought didn't work at breakfast. And Brooks kind of couldn't believe it. And Brooks at one point goes, "Oh, I like that bit." And my dad said, "Well, you're wrong. And I got notes for you too." But Brooks was very disappointed that Dad was not at the show this weekend. He even despite that, he was like, "I love Larry. Where is he?"
Yeah, it's like he comes out of a world of performance reviews, and people want to get better, and they want some honesty.
It's true. He does come from a corporate world where they're like, "Wait, what? You don't want to hear the honest take?"
Yeah.
Well, I want Larry's feedback then about the podcast overall. So,
oh my God, Sam! I feel like if you got him on the phone and Josh and I weren't here, he would just have a field day.
Hey, I appreciate the tough love. I can take it.
All right.
Okay, we have some really great listener stories, so I think we should hop into that.
All right, let's do it.
Hi guys, love the podcast. So thought I would share this story about a family trip that I took when I was younger. My father was a pilot, so our family trips in the 70s and 80s were filled with the glamour of air travel, which you both probably recall was a time when the predominant sense memory is the smell of jet fuel and cigarette smoke inside the cabin. And as people may also know, airline employees got low-cost travel. Back then it was $5 for coach, I think $10 for first class, taken directly from my father's paycheck, which is an amazing system I can highly recommend. And in return, I had to make the Faustian bargain of flying standby, which meant you can travel on a whim, but also means you have no idea if you'll get a seat on a particular flight or if you might need to connect somewhere unanticipated, lending that extra air of uncertainty that airline travel would otherwise lack. So with that backdrop, when I turned 16, I found myself with a free weekend, a freshly minted driver's license, and no parents around. So I decided to go to Puerto Vallarta. I took one of the blank tickets my father kept at his desk, filled out the airport coach for the trip, and off I went. I had a surprisingly easy trip down, and I got down there and realized once I was there, I had no place to stay. So I spent an afternoon on the beach, and I spent the night also on the beach, which, as they say in Mexico, was no problemo. Next day, I boarded a flight home, which required a connection. So as I walked to the terminal, I ran into my older sister. We both stopped dead in our tracks, and she said, "What are you doing here?" And I looked at her and said, "What are you doing here?" We were having I think what's known as a Mexican standoff. And it was right at that moment, as we stood staring at each other, my father walked by in his pilot uniform. He was on a trip. And he stopped, and he looked at us both, and then he just shook his head and said, "Don't tell your mother." And then he just kept walking. My sister and I stood there for another beat, and then we walked off in separate directions to catch our flights without saying another word. I literally still have no idea where my sister was going, and she never asked me either. And my mother never found out, so it was just a win all around. Anyway, thanks again for the podcast. It's lots of fun to listen to.
This is what an amazing family where people are just grabbing tickets out of a desk drawer
And going.
filling it out. And also, did I hear that right, Posh? Did he go to Puerto Vallarta for a day just to sleep on a beach?
I think he maybe was there for a couple days, but
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, but the first night was spent on the beach.
Gotcha. Okay, good.
Yeah. Not super clear, but that's the impression I get. Just what a fabulous confluence of family members in an airport. And what a cool dad
Yeah.
to just know exactly not exactly what's going on, but enough of what's going on, and to have the trust in his children to be like, "You're going to get home.
Yeah.
You don't look like you're in extremis here." And yeah.
I think you are aware of the fact that I am married to someone who is the kind of parent that would need to know exactly why their kids were in the airport, exactly where they were going.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a great value to having that kind of parent. Again, once my kids get a little bit older, I do think I could be the kind of parent who's like, "See you at home.
Yeah.
Live your life."
Yeah. It's so great. Because also, like, what they did wasn't, I mean, maybe the father has a certain, I would imagine, I would hope, like a love of travel and a love of flying. And maybe that's what brought him to that job, and that his kids sort of took some of that from him. And maybe he was like, yeah, this is, if I had this kind of access when I was your age, then I would have done it too. And maybe there was more pride.
I'm also picturing like a kick-ass full pilot's uniform when I see the dad. You know what I mean?
Back in that.
Yeah.
Era?
Where it looks a little military and just Mad Men, but planes.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
I think we've told this story, but we had, who was our American Airlines connection? It was our cousin.
Yeah.
We had a cousin, and when you came and visited me in Amsterdam when I lived there, and you went back and forth to the airport for like 4 straight days because you were doing that standby thing, and you kept not getting on planes.
Yeah.
It is where you're like, "Oh my God, $10 for first class. What's the catch?" You're like, "Here's the catch."
Right. Like, that dude could have been stuck down in Puerto Vallarta for 8 days.
Yeah. And then, by the way, his pilot dad, the mom would be like, "Have you seen him?" And he's like, "Oh, brother." Yeah.
Yeah, he was in
I
Puerto
saw him
Vallarta.
like 8 days ago. He was with our daughter. Our daughter? All right,
thank you for sending that
story.
in. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I do. The only thing I'll say about that story, was it hard for you when he said the part of, "What are you doing here?" And then the sister said, "What are you doing here?" Because that is a quote from the SNL sketch Californians. Were you like, "Oh my God, even our listeners are bringing up the Californians"?
I'm okay with that.
Are you
I'm okay
good?
with that. Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors.
This episode of Family Trips is supported by the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. Hey, Pashi.
Yeah, Sufi.
From muddy jungle paths and snowy trails to rolling sand dunes, the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has the capability to take you to some of the most epic destinations on Earth.
Oh man, we are excited to once again partner with Nissan because, as our listeners know, this podcast, Family Trips, is occasionally a podcast about trips and about the joy of having adventures and exploring new places and making memories.
And if you're one of our listeners who doesn't know the podcast is called that, what is the holdup? There's no better vehicle for chasing bigger, better, more exciting adventures than the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder with 7 drive modes. The Pathfinder's available intelligent 4-wheel drive is built for even the most epic journeys.
This thing can tow. A Nissan Pathfinder can tow, Soof, so you can bring the fun with you.
Yeah. How many pounds would you say?
6,000.
Oh boy, that's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun to tow. Nissan also knows it's not just about where you go in a Pathfinder. The real fun comes from getting there.
Ooh, now that is well said, Sufi.
Thank you.
Whether getting there is a new physical place or just the end of an amazing story told by one of our guests.
That's why we're excited to partner with Nissan to celebrate adventures everywhere.
So thanks again to Nissan for supporting family trips and for the reminder to chase bigger, better, more exciting adventures. And enjoy the ride along the way. Learn more at nissanusa.com.
Intelligent 4-wheel drive cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions. Towing capacity varies by configuration. See Nissan Towing Guide and Owner's Manual for additional information. Always secure cargo. Support comes from Babbel. What if in 2024 you got a little bit better every day? When you're learning a new language with Babbel, that's exactly what you're doing. And if Babbel can help you start speaking a new language in just 3 weeks, imagine what you could do in a full year.
Be a better you in 2024 with Babbel, the science-backed language learning app that actually works.
Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah, no, that's like no time at all. Babbel's designed by real people for real conversations. Say 3 weeks in Dutch, Posh.
3 weken.
Babbel's tips and tools are approachable, accessible, rooted in real-life situations, and delivered with conversation-based teaching so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. You know what I love about Babbel, Posh?
What's that, Soof?
You know I get ripped off in foreign countries.
Yeah.
You know I go into a merchant, I'm paying 2-3 times ticket price for items.
Yeah, not because you want to, not because you're being nice.
No, I just don't know the words.
Yeah.
And with Babbel, now I can learn the words quickly so that before a trip, before a vacation, I'm ready to go. Thanks, Babbel.
You know, Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold, plus all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee.
Here is a special limited-time deal for our listeners right now. Get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/trips.
Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/trips, spelled BABBEL.com/trips. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Here we go.
All right, next story, Sam.
Hi, Josh and Seth. I love the podcast. Keep up the good work. My name is Jim, and I'm one of 6 siblings. We're from the suburbs of Detroit. We're all fairly close in age, and in our 20s, when we moved all over the country, got married, and started having kids, we decided we needed an annual vacation together to keep in touch. So every summer, we plan a long 4 or 5 day weekend at a campground or rental cottage in western Michigan. Part of the reunion is always an all-day canoe trip down the Muskegon River. Now, before I tell you about our most infamous canoe trip, you need to know 2 details about our family. First, everyone in my family agrees that the brownies I bake are the most outstanding fudge brownies on the planet. And they would absolutely disown me if I ever showed up to a reunion without a big Tupperware container filled with a quadruple batch. Secondly, my sister Jan, while working as a secretary, fell in love and married her boss, who was about a dozen years older than the rest of us. Mr. Webb was a successful businessman, much traveled, a real man of the world. A kinder, gentler, more generous Southern gentleman is not to be found. My siblings and I, all working class stiffs that we are, all loved and respected him, and we looked up to him, literally, because Mr. Webb is about 6'5" and weighs 250 pounds. He always treated my sister like a princess, which frankly she is, always dressed to the nines with perfectly coiffed hair, even on canoe trips. So this one year, we launched our 12 canoes, my parents in one, the siblings and their spouses and 6 others, and the 12 grandkids, ages 3 to 12, divided in a few more, and we set off down the river. Since most of us like to splash each other and jump in and out of our canoes, we made sure the brownies and other snacks were in Webb's canoe, because we knew Jan didn't want to get her hair wet, and Webb, like the chivalrous captain of a seagoing frigate, would keep both his princess and the brownies safe. Things went well until we hit a patch of whitewater. For some reason, Webb, of all people, was the one who lost control of his canoe and ran right into a big rock in the middle of the river. He hit it so hard that my sister Jan was thrown into the water, where she splashed about screaming, "My hair, my hair!" Webb was so stunned by his mistake that, like a captain going down with his ship, he just sat there, bolt upright, until the canoe filled with water, and he slowly went under all the way up to his neck. Panicking, all the grandkids started screaming and crying, "They're going to drown! Save Aunt Jan! Save Uncle Webb!" But my other sisters and brothers and I noticed that the brownies had spilled out of the canoe and were racing down the river in their Tupperware container. So we started shouting, "Save the brownies! Save the brownies!" And we all took off paddling like mad to retrieve them. We did save the brownies. And eventually the rest of us paddled back upstream and got the grandkids to stop crying and helped the Webbs empty out their canoe and get them safely aboard again. The Webbs looked like drowned rats for the rest of the trip. Jan just muttered about her hair, and Webb just kept apologizing to his princess for his bone. The rest of us snickered a good deal at their expense and drank beer and ate brownies the rest of the way. Webb's humiliation was not quite over after his dunking, because when we got to the end of our trip and beached our canoes and walked up to our cars to make the trip back home to our campsite, Webb reached into his soggy pants, pulled out the key fob, which was of course waterlogged, and he couldn't get into his car. And of course, since he's the older responsible one, we had all locked our purses and wallets and keys in his car. So nobody was going anywhere. Webb just stood there pressing the button on that key fob over and over again, as if by some magic that would make it work. But of course it didn't. Looking at that poor, exhausted, defeated man standing there pushing on that fob should have moved us all to pity. But instead, my parents, us siblings, and all the grandkids started laughing. And we laughed so hard that some of us were crying and holding our guts and rolling around in the dirt. Once we realized our dire situation, though, this was before cell phones, which probably wouldn't have worked out there in the woods anyways, my sister-in-law Annie finally came up with a plan to take the key fob and walk down the dirt road until she found a cottage with someone at home who would let her in and let her use a hairdryer to dry off the fob. During the hour she was gone, the rest of us finished off the beer and the brownies. We continued to laugh until even Jan and Webb cracked a smile. Annie returned, the fob worked again, and we all got back before dark. That trip was 30 years ago. Sadly, Webb died young and is no longer with us. But most of us still gather each summer for a weekend and a canoe trip. The grandkids are now grown and married, and now there's a slew of great-grandkids to add to our canoeing flotilla. But each year we retell the story of the infamous trip where the Webbs got a dunking, the key fob got waterlogged, but the brownies were saved.
Bravo. That was like a Lake Wobegon quality story.
Yeah. Jim spent some time on that. Jim wrote that.
That was really
I
beautifully
appreciate
done.
that.
Beautifully
Yeah.
done, Jim. And rest in peace, Mr. Webb. What a character.
Yeah, but what a great way to be remembered in a lot of
Yes.
ways. Yeah.
I just like to think of this tall Southern gentleman, older than everybody there, just in his head being like, "These Michiganders think they're better than me. These blue-collar Michiganders."
Also, sitting on a canoe as it just sort of slowly sinks is a wonderful image.
I'm glad I did have a fear because Jim was speaking of Mr. Webb in the past tense. So I had an awareness during the story that he was likely no longer with us. And I'm just relieved that that wasn't the story where he passed away. That Jim did say. And then we got the brownies. And when we paddled back, Mr. Webb had indeed drowned.
Yeah, that's not the kind of story we're after here on
No,
Family Trips.
that was exactly the kind of story we were after.
Yeah. An annual trip is so underrated. It's so wonderful that that Jim and his family still do this. And there's a lot in the world you can go see, but to have sort of a standard place that you go is just great.
An annual trip, because also I think, look, vacations, when you can anticipate without the stress of something new, it is one of the great gifts to just know that you have that point in the year. And again, we're lucky enough. We've talked about it. We've got a couple of those. We got one with our buddies. We got one with our parents. And like having those in place is so delightful.
Yeah. If Dad had locked the keys in the car, or if Dad's fob didn't work, what do you think his solution would be?
I'll tell you what a solution wouldn't have been. Mom walking an hour to bail him out.
To go find a hairdryer?
Oh my God. I think she would have walked. I think she might have tried to walk an hour to a bar.
What do you think Dad would have done?
I mean, I certainly don't think anyone who knew him would have laughed real hard.
Well, I think the answer is he'd break the window.
I think he'd break the window. Yeah, the whole time I was thinking about it, I certainly don't. There was no Annie in our family who would have said. I think all of us would have been break the window.
Yeah, and that's the way I was hoping it was. I mean, I was guessing it was going. It's great that they didn't take the more destructive approach to it.
Yeah,
but I do think a group of 12 to 15 people standing around trying to figure out how to break the window of a car in the woods would be pretty fun. Like, who's throwing that big rock at the,
Well, here's my thing, though, right? I don't have confidence that Dad could break the window without making it worse.
You know what I mean? He'd throw a rock and cut his finger simultaneously.
Or he'd throw a rock and it would hit the door and put a dent in the door. So, at some point, I might I think I would argue, let's just sit here for 8 hours and wait for the key to dry naturally.
Yeah.
I do think that if Dad had done that, Mom would be cool and supportive. Josh, you just laughed so hard you blew out the Zoom. I couldn't even hear you. Hey, I didn't make me think of two things. One, when Jim was talking about how their families was splashing, right? And I was thinking, Mr. Webb, the very fact that he was called Mr. Webb was maybe my favorite detail of the story. And in Jim's short story collection, when he writes it, I do believe this story should just be called Mr. Webb. So, Mr. Webb probably came from a family where they weren't splashing each other with canoe paddles. Yeah. And there is that interesting thing where, when you marry into a family, you got to deal with the nonsense they do. And I'm obviously not saying our family doesn't bring nonsense to the table, but my father-in-law and my brother-in-law, Tom and Tolia, have taught our kids this thing. Mm-hmm. And here's what it is. I'm walking with the boys to school the other day, and Axel says, "Have you met my sidekick?" And I said, "No." And then he just kicked me in the side. And I had this real son of a gun.
Yeah.
What an insane thing to teach my children.
Especially Axel, who I don't think has a lot of control over how hard he's going to kick you.
Yeah, I know he kicks hard.
Yeah. He's a wild man.
And then the other thing is the special brownies. What does Mom make? What does Mom make homemade that is my favorite thing in the world?
Chex Party Mix.
Chex Party Mix. Our mom makes Chex Party Mix. It's like an old school recipe that I think used to be on the side of the box.
Yeah, heavy with Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire sauce and so much butter.
Yeah.
And it is so much better than Chex Mix in a bag.
Mm-hmm.
Not even close.
Yeah. It's baked, it's seasoned, it's you get those harder sort of like bits
crunchier
that are stuck
ones
together.
Yeah, it's almost like because the way she bakes it in a cookie pan, it's almost like the outer edge is like crust on a pie.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is, by the way, a story where my brother-in-law, who's out there teaching my kids sidekick, is the hero of this story. So Mom and Dad visited a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. And
I should note the reason of the story. When I eat Mom's Chex Mix, if I eat a serving that I want to eat, which is all of it, everything about me is hard to be around for like the next 48 hours. I would just say I'm sort of on a breath and a sort of emitted smells level. I'm no party to be around.
Okay.
You pay a price for Mom's Chex Mix.
Okay.
And so because of this, I sort of don't like, I've said to her like, yeah, don't even bring it because I can't stop myself. And it's just a bad scene.
Mm-hmm.
So mom leaves and she goes, Tolia has something for you.
Oh.
And so then a couple hours later, Tolia comes over and he hands me 3, not a full Ziploc, like sort of a half Ziploc. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like that you give kids snacks in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 of those packed full of Chex Mix. And it was like, the only thing I wish is that he'd had him like taped to his stomach like a drug mule
Right.
trying to get on a plane. And he handed them to me. And Pashi, I was so happy because I've said to her, I can't resist, don't bring it. But the fact that she just brought it on her own,
Yeah.
I felt no guilt.
Yeah.
And I ate 2 of them immediately. Again, and I was like, you know what?
you could crush them.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm not going to eat the 3rd one. And I put it in my computer bag and I completely forgot about it.
And
then a week later, I found it and it was the greatest feeling. It was the greatest feeling in the world.
I mean, that's like money under your pillow from the Tooth Fairy. It's just like magic.
Yeah. But like from a tooth you lost like 30 years ago. It's the best. And again, I know mom's listening. Don't overdo it because it was,
Yeah.
But
you already did say that Tolia was the hero of this story, and mom's probably like,
she knows,
wait a
though.
minute.
She knows. Mom knows who the hero is.
Yeah.
I also, but I did, so they drove off, and I think I'd eaten the first 2 bags like 12 minutes after they left.
Mm-hmm.
And I did call them in the car, and I was like, oh. And they go, what's wrong? I'm like, I already ate 2 bags. I think mom was very happy to know.
Yeah.
How quickly I put him down. But thank you so much for the Mr. Webb story. What a delight. Do you like a canoe, Posh?
I love a canoe. I haven't been in a canoe in so many years. I love a canoe.
Yeah, canoe's good. And that sort of Midwestern canoe, that's the way to live, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure the South has a lot of great canoe areas. But
yeah, for sure. I'd love a canoe trip in my future.
Yeah. All right. Shall we hear our next?
Please.
Hi, my name is Tracy, and I love everything you folks do. I wanted to share a weird, paranoid family tradition that I grew up with and that I'm now passing down to my own child. I grew up in a core 4 family, and when we would go on vacation, if we needed to take a taxi to the airport, my parents would do the routine to make the taxi driver think that our house would not be unattended while we were gone, because it would be clear to the taxi driver when we loaded up the suitcases in the trunk and went to the airport that maybe the house would be unoccupied and like ripe for thievery. So my parents would say to each other, oh, I think Danny's arriving later today. And, oh, yeah, it'll be good to have him at the house, and do a little routine, a little extra loud to make sure that the taxi driver could hear. And I remember thinking that this was really funny and also a little bit scary as a child. And now I do the same thing with my daughter. When we leave the house in an Uber or Lyft to go to an airport with a bunch of suitcases, we say, oh, Susan's going to be at the house later, and won't it be weird to have a dog in our house? There's never been a dog in our house. I can't believe a dog will be in our house for a whole week with Susan. And our friend Susan doesn't know we do this, but that's who we usually use. And when I was growing up, my parents always said Danny and Tiffany. That was some people we knew, and those were the ones who would supposedly take care of the house while we were gone, guard the house while we were gone. And my daughter has gotten really into the fun of this. And the last time we had to go through this routine, she said, and also the parrot. Won't it be interesting to have a parrot there? And I started to get really nervous because I was ready for the Uber driver to say that he had a parrot and want to compare parrot notes. And I don't have any parrot notes. So I was trying to remember in my head different possible breeds of parrots and what our parrot was named and what our parrot would like to eat. And I told my daughter later that she needs to stick to the script a little bit better, but she thought it was pretty funny. And I don't think that this does anything to protect your house from thieves, but I do recommend it as a fun beginning of vacation tradition. Thanks, folks.
Thank you, Tracy. That was outstanding. And let me say, I agree. The value of that is the fun of play acting with your kids.
Yeah.
Because it has
you have a scenario and it's just, here we go.
Because there's no value in the way that it's intended. And I would say the more you talk about your house sitters, your make-believe house sitters, the more the taxi or Uber driver knows nobody is going to be
Nobody's there. It's there was that old like Saturday morning cartoon or that little song about like when you tell a lie, it leads to another. Then you tell two lies to cover each other. And it's a bit of that. It's like once a kid's like, okay, we're cool to lie here, and then you just keep spinning that yarn out.
Yeah, and then you're like texting a friend being like, hey, can you call me? I'm going to put you on speaker, and can you make a parrot noise? I think this Uber driver's onto us.
Yeah, that would be a fun game to just play all the way to the airport. Just keep spinning it out. A crazier and crazier story. And then
I also just love when you you're just asking for it when you are teaching your kid how to lie.
Right.
Because the idea that they don't know where the line is for how far to take the lie, that's on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I tell you about how Axel, very in line, he loves to blow up a lie in front of strangers. And sometimes when I'm walking the kids down the street, we're in a hurry. I'm either taking them to school or we're running to get a train. And there are sometimes these Hasidic Jews on the street who want to perform a prayer for you if you're Jewish. And they sort of hang out on Fridays more often than not on the street. And they'll just like ask people as they pass, like, are you Jewish? And, it's very nice that they want to do this. No judgment. But, obviously, we don't have time for it, right?
Right.
And so I was walking down the street with the two boys, and this guy goes, excuse me, are you Jewish? And I go, no. And Axel goes, we are! And then he looked at me. The part that was the best is he looked at me with this big smile like, I know you didn't want that. Like it wasn't even like he was wanted to be honest. He just wanted to be a little stinker.
Yeah. And then does Axel get into a 45-minute conversation?
Oh, yeah, I just grab him. We just keep moving.
Yeah.
Which is easy with Axel because he's usually on a scooter that he's just making me using me as a tow rope.
Yeah.
So
yeah. He generally has a cape on. And
he generally has a cape. He's dressed like, a wizard.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Great story. Hey, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors. This episode of Family Trips is brought to you by McDonald's. Hey, Poshy.
Yes, Sophie.
I've often got a whole family in my car.
Yeah. You got a lot of kids.
Yeah, I also don't have to tell you, this podcast is about family trips, and one of the key things about a family trip is keeping them fed. And sometimes you're on the road, and everybody's hungry, and you just time. Time is of the essence, my man. Do you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Time.
I do. I hear you.
And what I love about the McDonald's app is you can order your food in advance. You can sense that this window is about to close where you can feed your children and they will not melt down. And what I love about the McDonald's app, amazing deals all the time, Poshy. Free medium fries. Or sometimes even a QPC BOGO deal. BOGO, you know what BOGO is, Posh?
Buy one, get one.
Buy one, get one. And that's great because I buy one for one kid, another one gets one, and the third one fends for themselves.
That's how you find out who's the strongest.
Yeah, downloading the McDonald's app is a no-brainer because you get a new deal every single day. I would say the most important time for us, like 3. If it's 3 p.m. and we maybe had too early a breakfast before we got on the road. Mm-hmm. And then the kids decided because of that early breakfast, they had to have way too early a lunch, right? It's like 10:40, they're eating lunch. And now all of a sudden it's 3 and you're just like, we're not going to make it. We got to get some food in those bellies. And that's when we love McDonald's. We love saving money. It's a match made in heaven.
Save money every day with the McDonald's app. Must opt in for rewards.
This episode of Family Trips is supported by the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder.
From muddy jungle paths to snowy trails to rolling sand dunes, the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder has the capability to take you to some of the most epic destinations on Earth.
And we're excited to once again partner with Nissan because, as our listeners know, this podcast, Family Trips, is occasionally a podcast about trips and about the joy of having adventures and exploring new places, and making memories.
And there's no better vehicle for chasing bigger, better, and more exciting adventures than the 2024 Nissan Pathfinder. With 7 drive modes, the Pathfinder is available. Intelligent 4-wheel drive is built for even the most epic journeys.
And it even has up to 6,000 pounds of towing capacity, so you can bring the fun with you.
But Nissan also knows that it's not just about where you go. In a Pathfinder, the real fun comes from getting there.
Very well said, Pashi. Whether getting there is a new physical place or just the end of an amazing story told by one of our guests.
That's why we're excited to partner with Nissan to celebrate adventurers everywhere.
So thanks again to Nissan for supporting family trips and for the reminder to chase bigger, better, more exciting adventures and enjoy the ride along the way. Learn more at nissanusa.com.
Intelligent 4-wheel drive cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions. Towing capacity varies by configuration. See Nissan Towing Guide and Owner's Manual for additional information. Always secure cargo.
Here we go.
So we once had a trip planned to go to see Yellowstone. We were going through Wyoming, and my parents had booked this really nice hotel that had horseback riding and different activities for kids. And I have 2 older brothers, and we were supposed to go there, but we got there so early in the day on our road trip that my parents couldn't even check in. So we decided to just keep driving for a little bit to find something to do until we could check in. But we ended up getting so far and so distracted from coming back that we were like an hour and a half out of the way. So my parents either had to cancel the hotel that we had and get somewhere in the town we were currently in, or drive an hour and a half out of the way just to get back to the hotel they originally booked. So they decided to cancel it before checking that there was a vacancy in any hotel nearby us. So we went to all these different hotels and sketchy, grungy hotels. And they finally settled on a really crappy motel with an M, motel. And they had 1 king bed in a smoking room left. It was the only thing available. And so my parents took it. We had to sleep on the cot, on the floor. My parents got the bed, and it smelled so bad that we went to Walmart and bought Febreze and just doused it. And of course, it only made it smell even worse. So we're sitting there in a motel, smoking room, laying on a cot with mites, probably. And when we went to Walmart, we also got to pick out 1 movie. So we brought the portable DVD player into the smoking room and watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Well, my dad laid in the king bed, regretting every decision he had made. I look back at that too. This was so long ago, and I can't think of Monty Python or watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail without thinking of a motel, nor can I go to a motel without thinking of Monty Python and the Holy Grail and how pissed my dad would have been.
Well, I mean, it's the perfect movie because I would say it's the one movie you could watch anywhere and it would still work.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorites.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's so great. And it also could maybe make you forget about some of those other things about the smoking room. And
you ever, all right, I'm going to tell you a true thing about me.
Okay.
And I don't know if I always felt this way or just felt this way after I have like a family and kids. Sometimes I drive by like one of those little dingy motels, you know, with all the like, you know, the doors on the outside of all the rooms.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it would kind of be nice to be on the lam.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought of that, but I will say that I'm probably more okay in a lower end motel than a lot of people are. Yeah. I'm never like, oh, these sheets, and like, oh, like what's happened on this comforter? I'm like, nothing's gonna seep into you. Yeah. I guess if there's like bed bugs, but if there's bed bugs or, you know, actual things that are biting you, I bet they take measures to correct that, I would hope.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I'm never gonna on a family trip stay at one of those little motels. Right. But yeah, there's something I always just kind of think about, like, I don't know, would it be cool to be in one of those little motels, like while I'm like putting peroxide in my hair to make it all blonde, you know, using the sink, maybe like growing out a mustache or something. Yeah. And I got like a duffel bag full of maybe, I don't know, cash. Yeah. And I'm just doing that thing where like I'm sort of like pulling them, you know, I'm doing a lot of like pulling the little blinds away, looking to make sure everything's it's an all clear situation.
Yeah. So you fantasize about that?
I fantasize about that a lot. Like I watched No Country for Old Men recently. There's a lot of that. Like there's a lot of like hiding in motels and like using the air duct to hide stuff. And I just kind of watch it. I'm like, that seems so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but if you're running from something, you got to eventually get somewhere. So I don't know what your...
No, usually they get you before you get anywhere.
Yeah, no, I know.
In this story, I don't like, it doesn't, I just like that moment, like before I get caught, but I also don't, yeah.
But when you get caught, you're probably like, oh, I don't like these motels. Thank you. Just take me.
Yeah, well, I feel like
take
I
me
have
to
that
prison,
thing where
please.
yeah, exactly. All right, let's hear our next one.
Hey, Josh and Seth. I'm Katie from California. Love the podcast. Here's my sibling story. In the early 90s, my family went on a road trip up to Oregon and Washington to visit family and go sightseeing. We were a core 4 family with my mom, my dad, and my older brother, Brian. At the time, I was 11 and my brother was 16. My brother and I got along quite well growing up and still do. We had a lot of differences and a big age gap, but we shared the same sense of humor. We're big corrections fans, Seth. Sorry, Josh. I'll go back to my family trip. While in Oregon, visiting my aunt and my uncle and cousins, we decided to cool off on the hot day and go swimming in the Willamette River, which was just about a 15-minute drive from my relative's house. The Willamette River isn't huge, but it does have a spot where there's a ferry to get across the highway. And earlier in the week, a truck transporting cherries tipped over on the ferry and spilled cherries into the river. Now, these cherries were ones that had been bleached and were going to be dyed to become maraschinos. I had not heard the story of the cherry truck tipping over, but my brother had. So we were happily splashing around in the river, having a great time, when all of a sudden I spotted something floating in the river. I went closer to examine it, and I was immediately grossed out. Ew, it looks like an eyeball, I think I shouted to my brother, and that's when he got the idea to play the prank on me. Yeah, it kind of does, he says. And then another one came floating by, and he said, I really do think those are eyeballs. I started to panic and looked his way. He was about waist deep in the water and pretended to slip on something. I asked him if he was okay, and he said, I think I just slipped on the head. I ran screaming out of the river, terrified we had found bits of a dead body, when in fact it was just 2 wrinkled bleached cherries and a rock. My brother thought it was hilarious.
Really great. I mean, shout out to the brother. I also think there's nothing funnier than, again, there's nothing funny. Posh, you know where I stand. There's nothing funny about a dead body in a river.
Yeah.
There's something a little funny about saying the head.
Yes. But also, I mean, I just had images of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with the chilled monkey brains. And when those eyeballs pop up, it is such a scary, freaky thing. And for an 11-year-old in a river, with a couple, eyeball things floating down.
It's also very funny to think that you would be lucky enough in a river with a current to find both eyeballs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like somebody could find, I think when you find the second eyeball, that actually disproves the first one was an eyeball.
Yeah. I was really expecting to have just so many eyeballs.
The eyeball truck.
Down. Yeah. And also, I love The Corrections with Jonathan Franzen. That's what she was talking about. Great book.
How dare you?
Great book. So no offense. No offense.
Yeah, no offense taken. Yeah, I will. A lot of like fun river stuff today.
Yeah,
makes me want to jump into a river.
Yeah, I was telling Mackenzie I've never really been on a proper float. And it's in my want category. I desperately want to go on a nice big.
Why
float.
don't you try for once in your goddamn life to win the fantasy football league, and then you can schedule you can make the trip that it's a float.
We were going to do a float one year when we were in Boulder, Colorado, but there was so much rain, and the float people were like 2 to 3 of you will die if you go in here.
That's right. I mean, so who would you? A perfect world. Which of our 12 friends? Who are the 2 or 3 that you would love to? Well, those were great listener stories. This is always just such a delight. And Sam, we open it up for you to bring us our listener questions.
Yeah, so we as you guys know, we get so many questions from our listeners. A lot of them send in voicemails, a lot of them send in questions on social media. So today we thought we'd pull some from our social media. So
All right.
our first question is for Josh from Natalie. Josh, tell us more about your songwriting process. Do you do it right after each interview? Would love to know more details.
I get a sort of a cut of the show as soon as our editor has it in good shape. They'll send it over to me, and I listen to it at double speed, and I take notes on the whole episode. And then I just sort of look at those notes and wait for a song to pop into my head. And then I grab, a karaoke version of that. I make sure that there is a karaoke version of that because I'm not a musician. And then I write out some lyrics, and I have a 3x4 foot coat closet in my apartment, and I pull all the coats out, and it's a little sort of recording studio in there.
Is it upstairs? Is it the guest room closet?
No. It's the front hall closet.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so I lay all the coats on the dining room table, and I go in there, and it's very hot. And there are some days where I'm like mad that I have to do it, but then it's like, well, this is like kind of a job, and I'm pretty lucky that this is what I get to do, and it's fun going in there. But it takes me a while. It can take me a while, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist with it, and I'm sure some of you, some of the listeners will be like, well, they're not perfection, and they're not. Like I'm not an amazing singer.
I want to thank Natalie. This is a great question because this is a conversation that I'm very happy we're having. I have some questions, some follow-ups.
Yeah.
What is can you remember, and maybe you can't, and maybe you can think about it for the next time we do this, but do you remember the song that popped in your head the fastest as far as the inspiration for what it would be?
The Pamela Adlon was pretty fast.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was take of Wet Legs, Chaise Longue.
Yeah.
And it just sort of, I had been hanging out with a friend of Mackenzie's and her daughter, and we were listening to that song, and I knew we had the Pamela Adlon coming up, but I hadn't gotten a cut of it yet. And I was like, oh, that fits in there. And that's a fun song.
It's a fun song.
Yeah.
We had him do it on our show.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
That was
Nice.
one of those where you're it's fun when you hear a song and you're like, oh, I would like to see that live up close.
Yeah.
Do you remember the one that was the longest, that took the longest time for you to crack?
I don't know. I mean, the listener episode ones take longer because I feel like
you have to steal a little something from everybody, right?
I want to do a stanza or a verse about everybody. So I need a song that
Mr. Webb and me floating down in a canoe. Gonna get those brownies and bring them back. And then he's gonna get water in his keys. Mr. Webb. See, I don't think it's hard.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's hard. Sometimes it takes a while. And then sometimes I'll start writing one and it's just not working, and I'll switch. But pretty much I go with the first thing that I come up with.
All right, that's a good. I do think there's work. I think, yeah. I mean, that's hopefully our improviser blood, because we used to you make up songs about audience members on stage, in improv shows, and so sometimes you just have to take the inspiration and jam ahead with it.
Yeah.
All right, great question, Natalie. Thank you.
Okay, our next question. Seth, hopefully if your daughter grows up and decides to come listen to this specific episode, we should rephrase this in a nicer way.
Okay.
But Jackie wants to know, Seth, how did you know that you wanted to ruin your Core 4 and add your daughter to the fam?
Okay, gotcha. Well, first of all, I do want to say I really enjoyed in 2 of our listener stories today, Core 4 was used, and I'm very happy that. And I was actually thinking during a story, I should come up with one now that I'm no longer Core 4. I don't know if we're live at 5, or Posh, maybe help me try to figure out what we should call A core 4+1.
Yeah, which I also want to just point out. I don't think we spoke of ourselves as a core 4 family when we were growing up. Yeah.
I know, Dav. It's been something that we're reflecting back. But I think we also like felt pretty good about being 4.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
As for why we decided to roll the dice, I thought we were done. My wife is a 5er, and so there was always a chance that she would want a 5th. I don't know if we would have if there hadn't been a pandemic, to be honest. I think there was a pandemic, and we, like a lot of people, we're spending time almost exclusively with each other. And, we were just at some point, we got so bored with everybody that we thought, what if we had a 5th person to talk to?
Right. At least gives you a break from.
Just a break, yeah. And I also, Ash, our oldest, really wanted a sister. And to the point that I remember joking, if it's a boy, he's going to drown it in the bathroom.
That's a fun joke.
Yeah, it's a fun joke. And the day we told him it was a girl, we have a video. It was really wonderful. He was sitting on the couch and he just sort of collapsed back in happiness.
Oh, that's great.
And I mean, it's impossible to imagine what it would be like without her. And it's everything. Everyone is their best self around her. Like the boys, the most irritating things about the boys, they do not do when they're around her. Like there's a real responsibility they have to be them best selves with her. And although I will say she's also so smart. And Alexi will always say to the boys, like, when you talk badly around her, she's learning those bad words from you. And then the other day, Ash said, like, to his brother, like, Axel, you're being so stupid. And she said, Ash, that a bad word. And so I said to Alexi, she's actually not learning them from her. She's learning from us that they're bad. I think she's like taking stock of the situation and she's like, I'm not going to learn anything from these two. But yeah, so, and again, I never had a sister. I've never been around a little girl in my life.
Yeah.
And it's just, I would never have said there was anything missing in my life because our relationship is so great. And yet you have this little girl and you're like, oh, so,
she's a little magic girl.
She's a little magic. So let me just say that if we'd have had a 3rd son, I'm sure we would have ruined it, but we didn't. And so we made it better.
Okay. So this is a funny one from Lydia. Josh, if you wanted to trick Seth into going to the Grand Canyon, how would you do it?
Ooh. I mean, maybe I would have to say that I'd have to say like the Hold Steady's doing a show, doing a small show.
Yeah, but see, then that's not tricking me because then I got to go to the Grand Canyon. Like, I think you got to somehow get me there without me knowing at any point that that's where I am physically.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, how do you do it?
Outside of tying you up and putting you in a bag and putting you in the back of a van.
That doesn't sound like trick. That's like a trick.
I think the way you do it is a helicopter from Vegas.
Yeah. Oh, that's it.
Because I think that can be done. And so I think I would find a time that we were in Vegas, which is not often, but happens, I guess. And I would say, like, somebody got me this, like, kick-ass helicopter tour of something, and I wouldn't say what. Like, we're going to, like, swoop the Hoover Dam, and we'll be right back. And you wouldn't know, like, this isn't the way to the Hoover Dam.
Right. It would have to be, like, for me to, though, agree to go on a helicopter ride, which sounds like a bad idea.
Right.
You would have to it would maybe have to be, like, your birthday weekend.
I'd be like, this is my bachelor party.
Right. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like you're right. Hey, it's my bachelor party. And then one of your other buddies, you'd have to be in on it with him.
Yeah.
Like Ike. Ike would have to say to me, like, I got a helicopter ride, trust me. And Ike could be like, you're going to hate it, but just do it for Poshy.
Right.
And
he
then
somehow really wants this.
Yeah, he just wants it. All right? You ruin everything. Just have fun for once. And then you get me there.
And then the helicopter drops us off.
Something. Yeah.
It drops us off at the bottom of the canyon, and we have to hike out, and you're furious.
Oh. So mad. Don't put these ideas in his head.
Yeah. But the stories we'd get from it.
The stories.
Soof.
The stories.
Okay, we have our last 2 questions.
Okay.
So this one is from Emily. Seth, would you let Josh take your kids on vacation without you and Alexi? And if so, Josh, where would you take them?
I 100% would let Josh do that. I think that they would need a few more years for them to be fair to Josh to send him off with them. But yes, I would 100% trust Josh with my children.
Yeah. I would like to take them. I'd like to, I'd probably take them camping, like Yosemite or Joshua Tree, probably Yosemite. But somewhere like that, somewhere spectacular where, we could just have our sort of tent set up and our home base, and we could always hang out there, or, there would be a tent for the kids to hang out in, if they ever needed some time alone or whatever, but there would be activities aplenty, and I feel like that's what I would do with them.
I would do Joshua Tree, but I'd do it soon because they might be dumb enough to think it's your that you own it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if dumb enough is the way I'd phrase it, but
all right, well, make him say whatever you want. Mr. Joshua. What movie is Mr. Joshua from?
Mr. Joshua. I can't
He's a
remember.
bad guy.
Yeah, I can't recall offhand.
Lethal Weapon.
Okay. Got me.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think it was Gary Busey in Lethal Weapon. Is this fun for the listeners?
No.
All right.
Def not. Sam, do you have anything else for us to get us out of this?
I'll save you, Josh.
But keep Googling it, Seth.
It is, you guys. Mr. Joshua. He had the famous line, you can call me Mr. Joshua.
Well.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
If you're writing movies, have your characters reference themselves.
Yeah.
And then they'll be memorable.
Well, nobody would call somebody Mr. Joshua unless the guy said, call me Mr. Joshua.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Sam.
Our last question is anonymous from Bill Wall.
Oh, Bill Wall.
Yes. And they want to know, what are your cross-country flight essentials? Do you have to bring a sleeping mask? Do you have to pick up a certain kind of candy? What are your essentials?
I mean, I need, I got to have a book. I'm going to have a water bottle. That's kind of all I need. I did have a big flight recently, and I was nervous that I was going to be cold. I get cold on flights, and I have this like camping blanket, but it took up so much room in my backpack, but I had like a full-on blanket. But I didn't need it. So it's not an essential.
For me, it would be fully charged AirPods. I sometimes just forget how charged they are, and that's sort of a disaster when they conk out.
Yeah, so. I'll have little earbuds. I don't use AirPods because I would lose them. I use like $30 things because I lose them. But then I also have a pair of like noise canceling headphones that also can plug into something. So I've got the wireless, and then I've also got the plug-ins. And the noise canceling thing is just to have. I'll wear them when I'm not listening to music or watching anything, just to sort of drown out the possible noise of like a screaming kid, which I am never really, maybe I'm disappointed with that kid, but I'm not mad at that kid or at those parents. And I feel like people should
you do go over and say, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed.
Yeah. Like other people are mad. I'm just disappointed. But I think it's sort of incumbent on everyone who's getting on an airplane. I feel like you should have something that can dampen or eliminate as much of the noise as possible, especially if you're going to be the kind of person that's going to be like, this person's too loud. It's like, well, now they make things.
Right.
They make little foam things that you can stuff in your ear, little earplugs, and
you can
just
wrap
get
your
some of
head
those.
wrap your head in Josh's camping blanket.
Yeah. I
Can
usually
I
have
also-
some snacks. I got some snack stuff going on in my bag.
You're king of snacks. One of the many great things about Josh, back in the day when we used to go see movies together when we lived in Amsterdam, Josh would have sort of a full bag of. You sort of had like a banana shaped bag. Is that fair?
It was a skateboard bag, I believe. I
Yeah.
think you could put like an old long like banana skateboard in it.
And it was well known that sort of a few minutes into a film, Posh would sort of hand out a much higher level of snack than you were used to in a cinema. A lot of crackers with sort of spreadable cheese.
Mm-hmm. Any number of nuts. There was some chocolate in there.
It was and there's some weird Dutch snacks that are very near and dear to my heart. Spicy pindas.
Yeah,
they're
those,
sort of like
Katjan
peanuts.
Pettis.
Yeah, like sort of peanuts that have like a deep fried, like shell.
Like shell,
Really good.
but it's also like I want to say like a Middle Eastern spice to it, maybe like a Turkish spice. I'm not entirely sure
So it's
where
very
those
good.
come from, but yeah, those were
Very good when Josh would bring a bunch of beers. It was definitely against a lot of the rules, but look, it was the high flying 90s in Amsterdam. Not everybody's watching this on YouTube, but a reminder: one, to watch it if you want to see what Josh's side looked like when he got hit with a golf ball, and two, just an exceptionally good hair day. Sometimes I think, you know what? I'm having a good hair day, and I just should remember not to see you on those days.
Have you showered today?
Well, I don't feel like that's this is listener Q&A.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not here to answer your questions. I'm here to answer
But
questions.
you are in the office, so you will arrive at the office unshowered.
Again, if you want to write these in for the next listener episode. The thing is, I'll just say, I'm not going to answer your question, but I'm going to answer a different question.
Okay.
I shower before the show, and so hypothetically, how many showers is a guy supposed to take in a day?
Well, I mean,
because at some point your skin dries out. You know what I mean? If you're just like spending. Also, life's happening all around us, and when you're in a shower, the amount of things you miss. Sure, like you go, and again, like this is the difference. Josh is like, I'm gonna take a full bath. The amount you've missed in your baths.
I missed.
Yeah, because life's going on while you're
That's
just
golden
submerged.
hour in there. That's
that's what I keep hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking a bath. Oof. No, thank you.
Yeah, I did take a shower this morning, I will say.
Oh, that's nice. Well, again, it's paying off. You look fantastic.
Well, thanks.
Thank
Give
you.
it a try.
Thank you to, again, stop. Thank you to all of our listeners for their stories, for their questions. This is a delight to do. And
yeah, thanks for listening in general. It's
Yeah.
it's really exciting, and that we've been doing this just about for a year now, and we really love that you guys listen, and we love that you're engaged in this way, and it's so much fun to do, and it wouldn't be the same if people weren't listening. So
we'd just be sad. We'd just be a couple of weird dudes.
yeah.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Family trip.